the $1 Million Mortgage Experience podcast. All right, welcome to today's episode. I'm here with Troy Fontana. He's a renowned author and speaker and has been a pivotal force in transforming thousands of lives over the past 20 years. Also, Troy's company it's called Elite Coaching Systems, and it helps people tap into their inner superpowers and achieve lasting change. He's the go-to expert for entrepreneurs looking to skyrocket their profits, relationships, and personal growth. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, brother. Excited to be here.
I'm so excited that you're here.
Yeah, thank you.
I asked you to come on because I had an amazing experience with my entrepreneur group, and having you come and do a little coaching, breathwork, deep breathwork, which sounds so cliche because I know it's the trendy thing right now, but it's real, dude. It's real.
It's very real.
I got deep, and it was a very momentous, life-changing kind of moment that I had, which was like an hour. It took about an hour with a big group, and so I was like, I got to have you on the podcast.
Thank you, brother. And I'm happy to hear that. And it is like sometimes when I tell people, one of the things I do is breath work. They're like, what? You got people to breathe? And I'm not really like that. It's a very deep and powerful experience. But
yeah. I mean, it's like I said, there's people that make fun of it, you know. But at the end of the day, if something works, it works.
That's right.
And you know, it may not work for everyone, but I know it worked for me.
Yeah.
And part of that was just me letting go and letting it happen. And you know, I mean, I'm sure there's so much science behind it, and we can get into that. But before we do that, let's just talk about your story, kind of what got you here, you know, to be a coach, to be an author, all that.
I think, man, like any good story, it has its ups and its downs. And ultimately what makes a person, I believe, is who we choose to become after we've faced that challenge. And a lot of my life has been, man, you know, it's funny even saying it because one of the sports I was involved with a lot growing up was boxing. And the whole kind of moniker around boxing is, you know, you get knocked down, you got to get back up.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, my life has kind of embodied that in a lot of ways. And so I've been an entrepreneur for 2 decades, and I've had ups, I've had downs. I've built a very successful business that took me a decade to build, lost that business. I've owned real estate, commercial real estate. I've lost those. And there was these moments just where I was face down and at times wanting to quit.
Yeah.
And whatever it was, I was like, I got to get back up. And by choosing to do that, it's almost like life, the universe, God rewarded me with these, you know, opportunities and also maybe people or situations to kind of learn and evolve from. And so a lot of what I do now is just sharing these experiences that I've had and always feeling drawn towards helping people. Like I can't help but not help people. That's like just how I roll. I have to. It just oozes out of me, you know. And part of that has been challenging because I've had to learn lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
But I believe, you know, you learn one of 2 ways. It's either going to be a firsthand experience, meaning you have the actual reference for it, or secondhand, you read it off a book, and both can work. But that firsthand experience there's nothing like it. And I've had a lot of them, and that's what allows me to share through my coaching, whether it's speaking, writing, whatever it is.
Yeah. You know what? Thank you for sharing that background. I don't know what it is, but I kind of like learning the hard way. It's weird to say that out loud, and because I don't, knock on wood, I've had a lot of shitty things in my life that have happened. But I think that when you read and you learn from a book, it's a different way of how you know it and how you live it, because it's not as authentic as going through it. You know, anyone can learn something, but it's like the difference between, you know, the Spanish teacher that's like, hola, como estás? Or the very fluent, living in Mexico and dealing and you're speaking Spanish or Spain. Yeah. It's more authentic and it's hard.
Yeah.
And you don't wish pain on anyone ever. But sometimes I look at my kids and I'm like, kind of want them to go through this a little harder. You know, or when they go through something hard, it's like, good. Like, glad that you went through that and you learned, and
right.
You're not going to do that again.
Right.
You know, right.
Yeah. Because it becomes a felt experience.
Yeah.
And it takes us, if you allow it to, it takes us into our heart. And I believe as humans, we can feel when someone else is talking through their head or their heart, right?
Yeah.
It's like, in sales, right? If you're trying to sell someone through the head, you're trying to logically explain why this should work. Well, humans are emotional creatures.
We are.
Right? And so if we can connect to emotion, but what's the easiest way to connect to emotion? It's connecting through our hearts.
Yep.
And I believe the one universal language we all speak is scars and wounds. We've all been through that. We can all speak that language.
Yep.
And so we can just cut the BS, get right to it, speak from the heart. And that's a firsthand experience.
Right.
Hey, this is what happened to me. This is how it impacted me. This is what I've been through. Then people start to draw in. They're like, yeah, me too, actually. We let our guards down. We drop the mask and we just get human to human.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful experience. And then it's a felt experience.
It's cool. So we've had other coaches on a podcast, and everyone knows that, you know, people coach and coaching is a thing. And some people are like, okay, I need a train. Like when you go to the gym, some people are like, I'm all about the personal trainer.
Right.
Some people are like, nah, just do it solo. I know what I'm doing. Talk to us about your coaching style and like why it's important to have a coach, even to the people that are like, you know, I don't really need one, but you know, could they be better if they had one? Maybe. Yeah. Like,
well, you know, if we zoom out first, like I think anybody, just ask someone you know who you admire and the success they have. And one of the key things they'll mention is mentors.
yeah.
And I know that's been true in my life. Like people who have gone before us and kind of guided the way.
Yeah.
And the unique thing about my perspective is, like I just talked about, it's those firsthand experiences, and it's a laundry list of them. And I'm not necessarily going to talk to someone always about the X's and O's, maybe what you do in your business or how you should be doing this differently. But what I'm a master at is actually listening to what someone is saying. Because people talk, but there's something behind the words that are coming out of their mouth. And when we start to understand that, right, maybe it's someone else like myself showing you that. As an example, I had a client last week, I think. As soon as we get on the call over Zoom, he starts telling me, I'm asking him how his week's going, and he starts using words like, it's been a good week, I've been busy, I've done this. And so that's fine, but what I'm actually hearing when he's saying that is in his frame, right, the way his brain is wired, right, wrong, or indifferent, is success equals busyness, right? So I'm grabbing those little things as we go along. Totally cool. And so then what I do is kind of hold a mirror back at some point. I'm like, hey, you can also be happy and successful without being busy, right? And I bring that along, and it's like a perspective shift.
They're like, wait, what?
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean?
Right.
Like, yeah, you're allowed to live. You're allowed to go golf and do this and do that. And success can come while you do that.
Yeah.
You can have even more of it, right?
Right.
Talk about being a human, that puts you into your emotional side of your brain. And so just reminding ourselves or having someone to reflect back to us what it means to be human. And rule number one is to get out of our own way. Yeah. And what I've found in my own life, when I'm messed up, it's because I'm in my own way. And I can't see that, right?
Yep.
And so having a coach, having a support system, like that's really what you're doing is you're looking to build a team. Like if you want to be elite, you need elite people around you to help you see yourself.
Yep.
And, you know, for me, I genuinely care. That's what you should want from a coach. And I'm looking for, in a client, someone who's ready for feedback, ready to move forward. I'll pat you on the back, but I'm also going to call you out when you need to be called out.
Some honesty, right?
Yeah.
Some tough love.
Yeah. And like I say, like, you know, a lot of sports teams are run better than businesses. Sports teams have a coach. Do you have a coach, right? Sports teams have a playbook. Do you have a playbook? Sports teams have measurables. Do you have measurables, right? Goals, yep. Exactly. There you go. Sports teams practice. Yep. They clearly define where they're going. Do you have those things?
I just had this funny thought. Like, imagine like going into a season, like you're the 49ers or whatever, right? And you're like, okay, guys, we're going to be number 10. We're going to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, we're going to stop there.
But we're not going to go to the Super Bowl this year. They all want to go to the top. They all want to be the best and win, you know?
And then what's the formula? Like, do you have the formula for that? You know, the 49ers do.
They do.
Right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that's
a good point because you're right. Like, people, if they want to have success, why would you leave that out?
Yeah. That's right. And, you know, again, first person reference, I'm also doing that. Like I have mentors, I have coaches, and I'm actively looking for, like, I need to learn faster. And I mean that I don't ever want to put on you this striving energy because I want you to be an arrival energy. I believe that most of us are putting off our happiness for when we get there, when I achieve that, when I have that. And so you're stuck in this striving energy, which actually is creating neural pathways. So your brain is getting conditioned for that, and you're distancing yourself from happiness. So we need to understand that you're already there. You already got it. You're already the man. You're already the woman. You're already there. You're already the champ. And also, how can I accelerate this process?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, there's a thing that I thought about. I don't know where it came from, but it was like, if you can imagine yourself already, like, it's easy to do for small things. Like, if you're like, okay, I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to pick up some milk and eggs, or I'm going to pick up, whatever, bottle of wine. You don't ever think like that's a difficult task. You don't think that that's a huge accomplishment, right? You're just like, I'm going to the store. I'm going to get a bottle of wine and a steak for dinner, and I'm bringing it home and cook it. And so when you go through that process in your head, if there's a stop sign, you stop, you go, red lights, traffic jam, you still go, you still do it. You may have to take a detour if something, the store's close, go to another store, whatever. They're out of the wine you want, you go to get it, So we don't think of that as this, like, because it is kind of ordinary. But I think I was thinking about how there are a lot of people who are CEOs or who are, but there's not everyone. But if you think like that's possible for me, and I'm just going to go do it, and I might hit some speed bumps along the way, I might have some detours I have to take. It's still, you can get there. It's just a matter of your mindset, like knowing that you already are going to do that, or you already did that in your mind, and you just go through the process.
Well, yes, and you're also talking about something that's called like the winner effect, and so it's the ability to count your own wins. And we're all conditioned different. This actually, we could go pretty deep on this, but I like to get nerdy on these things.
Yeah,
but
me
it's
too,
like
me too.
The way all of us have, our brains are wired differently as far as the way we receive dopamine. And so if you were raised and conditioned to have this, only monumental things count as success, right? So you're only going to get dopamine and serotonin when you achieve these big things, or when you win, right? Maybe that's the way you were conditioned, you were brought up.
Maybe your parents really celebrated the A's.
Yes.
Or the sports team win.
Right.
And that was your dopamine.
That was your dopamine.
Felt like you were worthy, or they were proud of you or whatever. Right?
Yeah. And so sadly, that can lead to a lot of other things, because that's really hard to do. And it's going to be distant, and it creates this kind of up and down type of energy. And so it's easy for us to then look for dopamine outside of that. Yeah. It'd be natural, almost, you could say.
That's how you're programmed.
That's right. It's how you're programmed. And so if I'm only going to, experience that once every 3 years, well, I need more hits of dopamine. Right. So I'm going to look for it in the mundane,
Tequila, cigarettes, whatever.
Yeah, right? Literally. No, that's exactly right. And so by kind of reconditioning your brain to go, hey, I made my bed this morning. I ate a good meal this morning. I went for a walk outside. I made that phone call to a friend or my parents. I took action on this. And so one of the things I teach my clients and, kids, everything is like, honor the right action. Like, get your brain wired around that. I took the right action. Let go of the outcome. You can't control that always.
Right.
And I want you to get obsessed and in love with the right action. And then you're always celebrating the right action, the right action, the right action. Hey, you went and talked to the girl. Hey, you went and talked to the guy. Hey, you made that phone call. Way to go. Drop the rest. Right? Like, we're just conditioning our brain differently. And then you start to receive actually more serotonin, more dopamine. You can get actual testosterone increases because your brain starts to go, oh, we're winning. Yeah. And that's the winner effect. That's what we want to create within you. Yeah. Right?
That's good.
And it's an upward spiral type of energy that we're creating.
Yeah. What was the thing you said? Something about not strive, but arrive?
Yeah. Arrival energy. Like, you're already there. You're already, like, I'm sure we'll touch on this more, but like, you're in the golden years. Like, stop putting off your happiness. Right. Like, you're there. It's now. Like, how many times everyone could do it? You could look back in your life right now and go, man, those were the good days. Well, these are the fucking good days. Right. You know what I mean? Like, you're in them. Yeah. Right. It's still there.
Mindset for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Like people talk about how a lot of people dwell in the past, and then they all have anxiety towards the future versus living in the moment. Yeah. And the moment is like, man, if we could just live in the moment. And it's like we have to be reminded, because like, you might be in the shower, like going to bed, and your mind starts going about whatever someone said or whatever, or like tomorrow, all these things. It's like versus being like gratitude and all this, all those things, which just sort of anchor you back to the moment. What are some skills or tips you share about how to stay in the moment?
I think one of the fundamental, 3 P's that we should all strive for is becoming present to the moment, having a positive life, and having purpose. And present to the moment energy is fundamental. Like if you're not present to the moment, where are you actually existing? Are you existing?
Yeah.
And, you could unpack that in your own way. Like, what does that mean? But really, like being present to the moment is where you feel things. And so that's a process of getting out of our heads, into our heart, connecting to our nervous system. You are an energetic being. You have over 1 trillion nerve cells in your body. You're designed to feel. And oftentimes when we experience trauma, it's a major reason you're experiencing this headiness is because it starts to separate you from your body. Because then the brain takes over and it's like, oh, I'll look out like for you. It's the actual trauma response usually is fight, flight, or freeze. And it's very primal. And it's like, okay, if I'm in those energies, the brain is on high alert. I'm looking out for you. Where's the next traumatic event going to take place? And trauma can come in the form of your girlfriend broke up with you, your boyfriend cheated on you, you lost this, you lost that, you got in a car accident. And it's there. It's still processing. And what's happening is it's taking bandwidth, right? Because you're on guard. You're looking out for the next thing. How do I avoid this? And then what's, sadly taking place is you're building a reality based out of your fears versus what you want. And the brain is designed for survival, not success. So that's how it wants to roll anyways. Yep. It's like, oh, sweet. This is what we like. We like to conserve energy. We like to take it easy. That's why most people learn secondhand experience. I'd rather read it or you tell me, right? Versus go do the thing, right? And so you're really, what you're doing is reconditioning your brain to go after and get what you want in life. But it comes from first this present energy that is reconnecting to our intuitive spaces. And to kind of take you even deeper is, you notice how I said your brain, which alludes to the fact that you are not your brain. You are not your thoughts. So then what are you? You're the thing behind your thoughts. You're the thing that can witness your thoughts. And when you connect to that space, connect to your core essence of what you truly are. It's a very, very special experience. And it brings everything to the present moment.
I love that, man. It's so true that we have the subconscious mind that most people in life, we're all guilty of it, can just sort of coast, just sort of be on autopilot, because your brain you could get through a whole week without even really turning on your conscious mind. You could literally get to work, drive, you have all these things, all these these programmed things that you do, right? And then you create these little habits that you don't even know you have. And so then I think tapping into that conscious mind is really so important, because that brings you back to the present, when the subconscious is where it allows you to sort of cruise, but then worry about the past, worry about the future, because you're not really dealing with the present. Your subconscious mind is just kind of carrying you through it, right? And I think that there are probably things that snap you out of that subconscious and bring you to your conscious, which are the fight or flight, other things that you can do. What are other ways? I know breathing, obviously, you do meditation, stuff that brings you back to the present, and then helps you kind of harness that thing, that subconscious.
Well, yeah, that's beautiful points, because that's exactly what you're doing. Is you're connecting, you're deepening your conscious connection. So as an example, one of the things that almost as a byproduct of what happens through my coaching is people increase their health, right? They'll often lose weight, they'll get in better shape. And I'm not, same thing like I said with the business, I'm not necessarily giving you the X's and O's. I'm not telling you what to eat. But what starts to happen is we're creating more conscious awareness around what we're eating. Sure. When we choose to eat, I'm just becoming more conscious, right?
Yeah.
And so the same thing that happens when we become present at the moment is you're just increasing your consciousness to that moment. These are the things that I'm allowing myself to hear, even that, allowing myself, right? I'm creating an awareness around that. This is the thing I choose. We've all had the TV on in the background or the music here or whatever. And it's when you tap into it, oh, is this really what I want to allow into my sphere, my space, And so kind of to answer your question there, a lot of what you're doing is creating an awareness around your body and the feeling, the sensations. And, you might go into, let's say you're going into a board meeting or you're going to go talk to your staff. And when you create consciousness, right, you start to realize you're getting stiff, your shoulders are tight, And when that starts to happen, you start to lose your voice. Everything starts to contract. And so then we literally we can breathe, we can relax, come into the present moment. I can go a step further and go, okay, why is this happening? What am I afraid of? Mm-hmm. Anxiety is just a knock at the door. You aren't listening though. That's why it persists. And so you go, okay, what is it? What
is that?
Yeah. Maybe I'm afraid of sounding stupid. I'm afraid of not being perfect. These are common things. Like, oh, okay, that perfection.
Someone laughed at me when I was a child, and when I did this, or I got up and fell on my face in front of people, and then you're just like, I don't ever want to feel that again.
There it is. Yeah, and it's just going, hey, it's like yelling in the background.
Right. Don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. And so when we just listen to it and go, oh, like, all right, like, we're good. I appreciate you. I respect that voice. I love you, but we're not there anymore. I'm not in 6th grade. I'm not in high school. Whatever that kind of event took place, I'm here now, and I want to move forward.
Yep.
And over time, that voice kind of starts to dissipate. And so, whether it's the breath, it's your body, active things like meditating, incredible. Like, I cannot recommend meditation enough. And my recommendation to do it would be, don't even make it a thing. Like, I remember I have to meditate, and I'd
sit down, put the headphones in. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like that. No. It can be whatever, just a little quiet time. And over time, it'll land. It'll stick whatever way it can stick with you and for you,
I mean, think about how much we meditated when we were before all the phones and the internet. And I mean, I'm 50, so I remember a lot of times where I'd just be sitting in my room with nothing, right? And you're just thinking about stuff. You're just sitting there. It's boring, but you're actually in the moment. You're present. Now we are so distracted by so many things in our life, in our world, and the messages that we get constantly, the little alerts and updates is like. You're giving yourself a gift probably to just set it aside, even if it's for 5. Start out with 2 minutes, right? Or 3 minutes. Start small, and then you probably enjoy it, and then you maybe even do it longer, like as it goes, right?
Well, it's funny. One of the things I often challenge people to is, can you make friends with boredom? And so it sounds very weird at face value, right? Yeah. But what it's showing is exactly what you're talking about. Like when you feel that energy of, okay, I feel bored. There's nothing to do right now. Sit in it.
Yeah.
Right. Just sit there.
Stew in that uncomfortable.
Stew in it for at least 5 minutes. Right. And then what you'll see is often that stream of consciousness will come, these thoughts, ideas, these feelings. And now you're in a whole nother process. Feel that. Stick with it. What needs to be, what do you need to look at? What do you need to feel? Maybe you need to cry. All those are a natural process of us, but usually we distract ourselves. And so it can be so powerful. We can just listen and allow. Your body is full of these energies and stories and emotions and feelings. You're a human, right? It's a natural process. And so tapping into it's really powerful.
So there's plenty of stuff. Thank you. That was good. There's plenty of stuff online about breathing. So you don't have to get into deep about this because all it is you just Google breathwork or Wim Hof or whatever, right? There's a lot of techniques out there. You probably have your own technique that we can get into a little bit. But why is that? Why does it work? People say it's just a fad or whatever. I mean, I have a cold plunge. Everyone's got a cold plunge now, right? So it's this fad, right? Sauna and all this trend, but I do enjoy it, and something happens to me. I think when I do the cold plunge, I actually do breath work without even knowing.
Yes.
But you kind of have to, right?
Yes.
And then you kind of want to learn because you're it's fucking cold, and you want to figure out how to deal with it in the right way. But tell us about your method and what where you got it and why it works.
Well, to speak to the why, we talked about dopamine. Well, substances can increase dopamine.
Right.
But so can the cold plunge, so can breathing.
Saunas.
Yes, saunas, out,
exactly.
Running, right? So it's you can get hooked on that too.
Yeah.
Why not? Right.
Right.
And as far as breathwork goes, there's different, like you said, there's a lot of different ways to use it. It might just be to bring you back into the present moment. You could do this box breathing technique or just take 6 deep breaths and great, right? My specific modality is more geared around trauma release. And the way I got into it was as I was working through my own traumas and just being, honestly at a point where I was buried in them and I didn't have awareness of what even trauma was. If someone said, hey, you need to heal, I wouldn't have known what that meant. What do you mean heal? I'm not,
Yeah.
And I started going on this, now I call it my healing journey, where I was just kind of feeling into my body and allowing myself to be vulnerable and feel. And I remember I'd cry and I'd remember things from the past. And it was just finally I took the top off of, this trapped bottle of whatever, and it just started like overflowing. But I noticed as I was doing that, every time I'd have these releases of my breath, like I could feel this like, and I'd literally have these physical sensations where it's like my joints would pop, pop, pop. And I'd get like, it was like just this tension leaving my body.
Wow.
And if you think about like nature, the things in nature that are stiff and rigid are the things that are dying. The things that are loose and have flexibility are the things that are alive and full of life.
It's interesting.
Right?
I never heard that.
And we are nature. To lose connection to nature is to lose connection to ourselves.
Yep.
And so I was reclaiming that connection, and I was loosening myself, like quite literally loosening up. And I noticed the breath was at like the core of it. And so I went on this journey of studying it and really wanted to come around like a modality that I could share with other people, and created this like structure where I could do it within an hour and kind of take you into this journey, this experience. And what I learned is this has been around for thousands of years.
Right.
Like if we were tribal and we experienced a loss or something like that, how would you deal with that? I believe for many tribes, this was the way.
Yeah.
And the breath is your own medicine. And essentially what's taking place is you go into this like, this non-ordinary state where your body starts to send you these messages of things that you need to process and you haven't processed. And the beautiful thing about it is your breath is your own medicine. If I gave you a substance, it has its own agenda. Even like coffee, let's say, it's, you're going to be, hey, let's go, right?
Right.
But your breath is your body's own medicine, and your foot is on the gas, meaning you can slow down if you feel uncomfortable. If you feel like going in deeper, you can push a little bit more. And, really what we're doing is we're creating in the beginning like a stressed state in a safe situation. And so it allows a lot of those old traumas to come up, but you're in a safe environment, and they can be reconditioned, reprogrammed, because the brain works in stories.
And now you're in a safe environment. So you're going back experiencing that trauma, but in a different environment where everything's okay.
Yes.
You're safe, you're fine.
You're not there anymore.
You're actually able to go back and get into that moment and then deal with it in a different state. Yeah. It's
right.
Interesting.
And it's a felt experience. Yeah. This time you feel it and you're like, oh man, I've been holding on to this for so long.
Dude, that is so true. I remember thinking about how our feelings aren't really real. I mean, they're not real in the sense that, they are real, but they're not real in the sense that like someone could knock on your door and be like, Troy, hey, your brother just died. And you would just feel all that, right? Cry. And you'd feel the pain of him dying or whatever.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he walks through the door and you're like, what? Like, it's not your emotions were all tied to information you got.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And like, and so like, if you can go and deal with that emotion or that thing, you can go back to that place and change it in a way. It's almost like time travel in a weird way.
Well, that's massive actually, right? Because life is going to happen. You're going to face challenges and setbacks. But I strongly believe that you get to choose how you show up through this experience. We're creating meaning for everything. Yeah. Just think about your life on a day-to-day basis. You're creating meaning in everything. And so it's no different when you experience setbacks, challenges, traumas. You decide what it means, right? You're going through a divorce, you're going through a financial loss, you define what that means, right? Here's an opportunity for me to show up differently. Here's an opportunity for life to look this way. Like I always say, replace fear with curiosity. Like be curious. If you have fear around something, switch it. Throw curiosity in there and go, all right, beautiful. Cool. I wonder what's next.
It's cool. So when you go into the breath work, is it like, I don't know if the word is hypoxia or what happens to your brain? Like you're breathing in so much oxygen. Yeah. I think maybe that's the reverse. If you don't have oxygen, it's like hypoxia or whatever.
Yeah.
But you're getting this, so you're getting dopamine, but you're getting it's almost like a hyperventilating kind of experience. But you do that when you have trauma anyway. Like I remember going through some trauma, finding out a friend died, and I was like, you just start breathing like crazy, right? And like it's like our body's natural response to trauma or to anything that's intense like that. So is that what you're doing? You're kind of putting yourself back into that state of, and then what happens to your brain when all that oxygen is pumping in there? And
So you're think about this. Your body holds a breathing pattern for a variety of emotional states. Right. So when you're excited, right, you have a certain way you breathe and a certain space in your body that you breathe from, right? When you're scared, you breathe in a certain way. When you're sexually aroused, you breathe in a certain way. And so it has all these spaces. And so what you're doing when you kind of invoke this breath work, you're going into those more kind of traumatic, fear-based spaces, right? Because we're really expanding when we do it,
right?
And again, you could say this isn't like direct science, right? Like,
sure.
But in theory, what's taking place is like your brain is going back into that space the way it felt when you were in that traumatized moment, and it's allowing it to come up now in a safe space, right? And then be reconditioned, reprogrammed. And I call it like imprints. You have these imprints that are made into your subconscious.
Absolutely.
Right? And so it's like it pulls them up and goes, oh, this like...
Is that still important?
Yeah, it's like a computer, right? Like, do I need this file anymore, or can we just change this?
Right.
Right? But it's actually allowing you that space. I went through something very traumatic recently, and for 3 days afterwards, I woke up in the middle of the night, deep breathing, like big time deep breathing and sweating.
Wow.
But what's cool is because of this is part of what I do.
Yeah.
I was like, dope. This is my body's like natural response to processing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just let it happen. And then pretty soon I started sleeping better and letting it go. I'm like, cool, this is natural. Yeah. But often we'd fight that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like breathing and I'm scared. Like
call the doctor.
Something's wrong. Exactly.
Go,
Get me, what I'm like, nah, man, like feel it. What's up?
Yeah.
On the flight down here, I got on the airplane and it was the first time I had some quiet space, right? No one was in my aisle,
Yeah.
And I started crying because I was like, it allowed me, I could feel anxiety, which was a knock on the door. And so I answered the knock and I was like, what do I need to feel? What's not processed? And I was like, probably because I'm leaving my hometown in an airplane. It's like some new information could come up,
Yep.
And I just felt it and I cried and I was like, beautiful. Yeah. And 30 minutes later, I felt light, loose, ready to go.
I know so much of our lives as men, especially, we've been taught, don't cry, it's weak. But there's a healing to it. It's if you just let yourself do it, right? Like you're like, I don't know. It's true.
Yeah, it's like, man, you're right. And it's a lot of men, we really struggle with that, right?
Yeah.
And actually in a breathwork ceremony, one of the original imprints I saw was, and to no fault of his own, because this is way he was led, right? Was my father telling me when I was probably 7 that he hasn't cried in 30 years. It was just in passing, whatever, you know.
That impacts you as a kid.
That's right.
Sure.
And I saw it, but
because your dad's your hero, right?
Yes.
It's like, yeah.
And I saw the imprint of the message I received. It was kind of like I checked the box and was like, oh, this is how men behave,
Yeah.
And he was raised that way, and his father before him, right?
Suck it up.
Yeah, exactly. But it was that moment gave me the opportunity to reframe it and go, that hasn't worked very well for me, right? Like,
how's that working out?
Yeah, and now I take pride in like, dude, I'm happy to be quote a softie. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a shit. Like, it's all here. What's up?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sucker for good movies.
Yeah.
Like, if there's a good movie and it's the music's going, it's this drama, it's Braveheart or something.
Yeah.
I get choked up a little bit,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool, man. So you were touching on like letting go, and I think as humans we try to hold on to stuff a lot. Like we try to have this. Maybe it's we're protecting an area of our heart or area of our mind or whatever it is. And so we don't let go of something, whether it's something someone said to us and it just affects us for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Whether it's like when you're in high school or middle school and people make fun of your last name somehow or call you something that rhymes with your name, and so you have this like stuff you hold on to, or like, I don't know, there's a bunch of different examples you could say, past relationships, people doing something to hurt you. And, I know when I did my breath work, I was able to let go of some stuff, some really deep things, which was so cool. And it's so weird. It's what was so weird to me is I think about this a lot is I go like, I do feel different. Like even till today, like that person I kind of like said goodbye to. And it's like, I'm still the same DNA, same person, but like I have different viewpoints on things. It's Kind of weird. I mean,
beautiful,
right? Like, is this something other people say too? When it's like I recommend it. That's all I'm saying. It's very cool.
It's a very powerful subject, right? Yeah. And it's kind of another one of those like, well, okay, letting go, right? Yeah. Well, what does that mean? Where's the science behind it? Well, think of it like this, okay, if we use a reference back to nature, right? Think of a snake shedding its skin.
Yeah, it's kind of like what it
felt
is.
Like. Yeah, exactly. It's trippy, right?
Yeah.
And in one part, you're like scared because you're letting go of this old version. Another part, you're vulnerable and you're exposed now. You're like, oh, this is a new way of being, right?
Right.
And that's the key.
And it's weird. Like there's moments where I miss the old.
Yes.
Because it was like there was sort of something safe that I'd held.
Something safe. There
you
go.
Where it was like now it's like, oh, like that's a little bit now and fresh and
yes, vulnerable.
Right.
But it's a different way of being, and that's the key, right? So you're literally seeing the world differently now. Literally seeing the world differently, right? And if you think about this letting go energy, I believe, most of you are accumulating in the early stages of life. You're trying to be somebody, you're trying to gain this, become that, achieve this thing. And eventually you reach a point where you realize how good it feels to let go. And once you realize how good it feels to subtract, then you realize how good it feels to divide. And you just start letting go more. And the letting go isn't always the external, it's the internal, right? It's the people pleasing, the perfectionism, the rights and wrongs. Exactly. All that stuff, you just start to, let this go. And I believe as we expand, as we mature in life, we really want to nurture that letting go muscle. And there's going to be moments where you control what you can control.
Yeah.
But most often you're going to see this life demanding you to let go. And if we boil it down into energies, which again, if you told me energy, there would be a time where I'm like, what are you talking about? Energy. Right. But like, think about the energy that you're carrying when you're holding on to guilt, shame, resentment, hate, anger, right? It's an energy.
It is.
And now if we think of that energy has a resonance. So what does it resonate with? If we think about substances, we think about foods, right? It's going to resonate with certain kinds of foods, certain kind of substances, certain kind of music, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same reason why you go through that breakup and you're like, oh, this sad song feels so good right now, right? There's a resonance, there's an energetic resonance. And so by letting go of these energies, you start to resonate differently. And so I believe one of your goals as a human is to, you want to become light, like energetically light. And if you think about, I'm getting a little woo-woo here, but if you think about like you exiting this earth, do you want to be heavy and dense or do you want to be light and loose? Like where's your path and trajectory going to go? Right. And so you're letting go of these energies. You're allowing, you're forgiving. Doesn't mean you got to, forgive but it's for you. It's not for them. It's for you. Let it go, man. It's over. I'm going to move on. For me. Good. Right. So it's a letting go process, a loosening process.
You said something interesting. You said it's like a muscle. And we all know if you don't work the muscle, it's small and it's weak and it doesn't do its job. But how do you practice that letting go muscle? Because that's a good point. If it is like a muscle, then you have to work at it. You have to.
It is. It's for me, one of the clearest examples comes up when I do like a speech, right? Because I've done this now for, let's say, 2 decades, in different ways and different situations. And early on, I wanted to be perceived a certain way. I wanted you to like me. I wanted to sound good. I would ask afterwards, what'd you think about it? Okay. And if we think about that as energy, like it's me controlling, squeezing, right? And afterwards, I could do an hour talk and my voice would be kind of shot and tired. Now I can do a 4-hour talk and have like a couple bullet points and I'll have more energy afterwards than when I started.
Wow.
Because I'm in release. Right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm allowing, I'm flowing. So I know that if I want to extend my energy, I actually have to let go. And so I'm literally like connecting to the present moment. And as I do that, like Troy is getting out of the way, right? I'm like more a little woo-woo, but I'm channeling, I'm allowing, I'm just trusting that the information's there. I've put in the work and also it'll arrive and I just I allow it and I let it flow through me and out of me. And so it's like a muscle, you're learning to release here and release there and just creating awareness around, okay, maybe this thing in life, I want to move in this direction. I want to switch in my, a new home or switching my career or this thing. You're going to squeeze it, just sitting there, going to sleep, squeezing onto that idea. Like, what are you doing? You're burning gas, right? It's me speaking when I was younger. Oh, squeeze it, hope you like me. Or do I become clear in my intention and let go of the outcome? Okay, this is where I want to go. But let's let the universe.
Conduit versus
and just let it go.
Like, I mean, it's a silly example, but like how rivers have, there's energy and there's cleanness. But then when you get into like a pool of water, it gets toxic and.
Great.
Yeah.
That's a great example.
You gotta let it flow.
Yes. I've heard this once and I use this, but like, imagine if you want water, are you going to grab it and squeeze it with your hand? How much water is left?
Yeah, very little.
Right? Or do you scoop it lightly?
Right. And leave your hand open.
There you go.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, as an entrepreneur, you've had to build client base. You've had to kind of create your own business. So what kind of tips do you have for, say, like someone in the real estate mortgage space on like building relationships and getting new clients?
I really believe, I'm always looking for win-win situations. And like, I've really become obsessed over the years about adding value to everything I do, everywhere I go. And so I'm literally asking myself, like, at times, what does this moment need? What does this environment need? And how can I give it? Like, so sometimes it's just humor, right? Yeah. It's just coming to a situation, hey man, let's lighten it up here. Let's laugh a little bit. Right? Sometimes it's more direction and seriousness. And so when you're working with a client and you're developing relationships, like, you're looking 10 steps deeper. And so I might notice this person, I go, man, they don't have like a social network. It has nothing to do with them, quote, paying me money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? But I'm like, bringing that up, or I'm providing opportunities. I'm getting them plugged in a certain way. And I'm kind of like speaking to that as well. And then what happens, if you think of it as like an energetic circle, that's going to come back to you. You've connected them with this person now, or this situation, or this environment.
Yeah.
And they're going to remember you. They're going to think of you, oh man, this person like really cares. And so I take genuine interest in my clients' well-being, and that's the win-win, right?
Mm-hmm.
And results matter. And so really getting people to the finish line, like, maybe in your industry, sometimes it's, hey, this is the timeline, right? Or this is the deal, or this is the opportunity. I can't make you drink the water, but I'm going to put your nose right in front of it and make it very clear with this is the time, right?
Yep.
So making sure that they get the results, that they genuinely care, and looking, how can I add value? And it's not just value from maybe what they're asking you up front, but it's really seeing the field. Where do they actually need value added into their life, and being open to help them with that journey.
That's good. So a lot of us have like these different mentalities. We were talking about, letting go, letting be a conduit. Some of our mentalities are negative, right? And some of them are positive. There's a, scarcity mentality. There's an abundance mentality. I know that you're pretty big pro, abundance and all that, and that being in that space. Why do you think people get into the scarcity mentality, and why they get stuck there and they hold on, and versus the people that just are in the let go and abundance? Like, what's that about?
Great question, because everybody could probably relate once you kind of vocalize it, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah. But I think it goes back to that, like the brain being designed for survival versus success. So scarcity is more natural, and also you've probably been conditioned with it.
Yep.
Right? You've seen it in your parents, or whatever, your different environments. But
like, turn the lights off, or save energy,
save,
eat all your food, you don't want to waste. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, where's the coupons? Where's the
Right.
I always say, like, when you're looking at a menu, it's choosing from the left side or the right side. Are you staring at the prices, or are you getting really just choosing what you want? Right? And we want to move into that energy. Just choose what you want. But what I ask my clients, and will ask you, people listening too, is, where do you want to build your life from? Do you want to build it from making decisions around scarcity or around abundance? And so what I try to do with my clients is in the areas of health, wealth, and relationships. I want you to be in abundance in all three of those areas. And then you can choose from that space. Right? Like, simple example, I remember talking with a gal who was going through some relationship stuff, and it had been this on and off type thing for years. and she's kind of like, hey, should I get back in this relationship? And I was like, look, you can't even ask me that question until you can choose from a space of abundance, right? So until you have 5 other options, right?
Right.
Don't even ask me that, because I bet when you have 5 other options, you're going to be like, screw that guy, right? I'm moving on.
I don't need that guy.
Yeah. So what I really encourage people to do, and I use this kind of phrase, like, don't punch at the wall, punch through the wall. Through the wall, right? Cool. So wherever you have in those 3 areas that you have scarcity, we need to take massive action, right? And honor appropriate action, like we talked about earlier, punch through the wall and get you into abundance.
Nice.
So if you were, simple example, you had a job you didn't enjoy, right? If you had 10 other suitors going, hey, come work for us, you're in abundance. Right. Now you get to choose, right? If it's around dating, like we could do a whole thing around getting you a great online profile, get you really good at approaching people, get you really comfortable in social environments, and like having a system for that. Or we build that positive life. So you just naturally have a lot of cool things going on. You're doing this, you're doing that. Hey, I don't have any open time until next Thursday. You're naturally flowing in this abundant energy, right? If it's business, where's the area? Okay, let's take massive action. Let's not reach out to the 10 people we need to reach out to. Let's reach out to 50, right? Who else can we get involved in this idea, this concept, and just go full throttle for 3 weeks and go from into abundance. Then we choose.
Then
we make that decision.
Yeah, that's good.
Right?
Yeah. So many people, we tend to just want to make a decision on like when we're in that scarce moment. I only have this one option. I don't want to do it, but you don't want to do it because you need to have more options.
Right.
And you could put yourself into that position, but for some reason it's like that autopilot, back to that autopilot, subconscious, you're not in. You could have all those options, but you're not because you haven't taken control of your life.
And I always say the best time to make money is when you just made money.
Yeah,
you're right. You're already in that flow. Like, go with it.
Right.
Right. But we make money, and then we kind of like, I'll just wait. I'll hold on to it, and it starts to dwindle. Yeah,
my acorns.
Your acorns. You're like, all right, get back out there now, I guess. Right. But it's like, no, man. Like, you just made it. Go again. Go again. Go again. Keep betting on yourself over, and then you just it's an up. Like I say, usually you're in an upward spiral, or unfortunately a downward spiral. And so the goal is to get your energy in this upward spiral and just put your foot on the gas. That's full throttle. Yeah.
What are some tips on getting your head in that right space to get you in the upward spiral?
Confidence is big. Getting clear on your vision with what you want. I have this whole module. It's a pretty cool module, but it's essentially like a lot of what you're doing in life is you're gaming yourself. You're getting leverage over yourself. Mm-hmm. So once you realize that, you kind of go, oh, like I shouldn't naturally have this necessarily figured out.
Right.
And so you have to like get leverage over yourself. Like, what are the positive sides? What would you like? I do this with people who like want to make money, right? I'm like, okay, tell me exactly how you would spend the money. You want to make X amount this year. Tell me how you'd spend it. 99% of people can't tell me.
They don't even know yet.
No. So I'm like, you don't really, yep. I'm like, you don't want to make money. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, you don't. You don't even have a palette for it. Like, oh shit. Right.
Like, you don't even know where to put the money.
You don't know where to put it. Yeah. So I'm like, get your palette for it first, right? Write out what you would do with it. And there you are, gaming yourself now. You're getting leverage over yourself. You're like, oh, this is what I would do. These are the people I'd take on this vacation. Here's where I'd go. This is the thing I'd buy, right? And we have different levels of motivation. Lower, mid-level, day-to-day, and then higher levels of motivation. And you're tapping into those different energies, gaming yourself, and getting really clear on, if you do this, what does life look like? If you don't, what does life look like?
Right.
And then I like deepen it, right? Creating like, the carrot and the stick.
Yeah.
Carrot feels good. Stick, that hurts. I don't want to do that. And so we're going back and forth between the two. Now you got leverage.
That is a great answer for getting in the headspace, because you have to imagine what it's going to be like. Mm-hmm. You're never going to be flying on a private jet unless you've thought about it in your head. You've thought about like what it feels like, who you're with, why you're doing it. You're not just flying to Disneyland. Maybe you're going on a business meeting, or you're going to something that, and not everyone wants to fly. I mean, I think almost everyone would want to fly on a private jet, but some people don't really care about that. It's not a big deal. But the people that say to themselves like, oh, someday I'll have a jet.
Yeah.
But you're right. Well, who are you sitting by?
There it is. Yeah.
Where are you going on that jet? And they don't know. then it's not, it's not even in their palate. It's not even.
You have to feel it.
You got to get in that headspace,
yes,
right?
Man.
That's why I think dream boards and like vision boards are so important, because you see it, you feel it, you experience putting it down on paper. But that's even more of a great place to practice that muscle of like, what if I did make $1 million? What would I do with it? Am I just got to put it in my savings account and that's it?
Yeah.
And then what? What does that make me feel better? Does it, or are you going to use it for something? And what is that? And like, why? And then maybe the universe doesn't want to give you those things because you haven't already.
Yeah, there you go.
No, you're not going to get do anything with it, right?
I so agree with that. That's right. And sometimes, like another thing is, you heard the analogy, like throw your hat over the fence. I'll use that sometimes. I'm like, because when you throw your hat over the fence, guess what? You got to go get it.
Yep.
I'm like, you want to move in this direction? Go buy the thing. Yep. Go book it now, right? Go hire the person. Do it, right?
Right.
And it's like, now you got to figure it out, right? That's me gaining leverage over myself. All right, cool. I guess I'll figure it out. Here we go.
Yeah, that's great. Like burn the lifeboats.
Yeah, that's right. Oh shit.
Yeah. My daughter is a singer songwriter, and she's like, I have no plan B. No plan B. I'm just gonna give it all and do it.
I love that. As a dad, it's probably like, oh man, right? But I love it. That's cool. Yep.
Wonder where she learned that from.
Yeah, right.
But cool. What about bouncing back from like we were talking about falling on your face and getting back up, right? Yeah. Like this last year for the real estate and mortgage business has been shitty, tough.
Yeah.
What back to getting in our headspace, but like, how do you go? I mean, part of it's the market, right? So we're unfortunately we're in a industry that is very heavily influenced by the market, and where the rates are at, what people are selling or not. How do you create your own sort of business when things are tough and what do you got to double down? I know you got to do the abundance thing.
Right.
But like what else? Any other tips on that?
Yeah. And this seems little, but it's big, right? So one is, your most valuable asset isn't necessarily time, it's energy, right? Because if you have time, but you don't have the energy in that moment, again, you're not really there, right? And so it seems small, but it's big. And one is like allowing yourself to get out of your own way, which is during challenging times, you often get in your own way by over obsessing about the negative, squeezing. There's the control muscles too tight, right? It's not working well. What should I be doing? And you're just, with entrepreneurs, I call it productive procrastination. You're like a dog chasing its tail, right? It feels like you're doing something, but you're not really doing anything.
Right.
So strangely, in times like this, detaching a little bit, well, hey, chill out. Go have the coffee with a friend, breathe, go for a walk, focus on your health. Because now I'm creating space for allowance, right? I can allow other things to come in. Maybe it's an idea, maybe it's a thought, maybe it's a connection. And sometimes that one idea, that one connection can change your entire destiny, your destiny. But you're squeezing it so tight that you're not creating space for it.
Yep.
Right? So again, it seems small. No, but it's real. It's very powerful. So get your energy, your space back, right?
That's cool.
And then the controllables, double down on those moments, right? When you have the opportunity to think outside the box. Because to that point, you need to create space for lateral thinking. You want your brain to work like that, right? And it only comes from being loose and engaging that emotional center of the brain. So a lot of what my clients, what I do is I encourage them to be social or do these things like, go to the beach, go for the walk, take some time for yourself, because it keeps you in that emotional frame, and that's where creative space is. Yeah. When we get overly logical, like we've all been there, you're just squeezing tight, logical. You're too tight, you're too tense. And again, like even energetics, right? Is something going to move towards something that's tight and dense, or is it going to move towards something that's open and release and in flow, right? So it's important to fight against that energy, and create space so things can come into your kind of sphere. And then when you get the opportunities, double down, all in, prepare, practice, right? Try something new. You can think, when you have lateral thinking, you can think outside the box. So maybe you start that, new podcast. Maybe you start that new networking event. Maybe you start a little social thing. Maybe it's a monthly little group that you put together, and that becomes its own source of revenue, right? Or opportunity. But you won't get there if you're squeezing too tightly and you're stuck in the logical space.
Good. Love that. As far as negotiation, I know you've got some ideas about that,
Mm-hmm.
like negotiations and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Talk about that, but also talk about confidence, 'cause I know that kind of ties in hand in hand. With confidence, I believe from just everything I know and learn is that you start with yourself. The more fit you are, the more confident you are.
Mm-hmm.
The more skilled at certain things, you become more confident about those things. The more you do. This is like our 108th podcast or ninth. I've been doing it enough to where now it feels natural.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like not worried. I don't stress.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get camera shy. But the more you do things, it helps build confidence. What else do you think builds that confidence, and how does that lead with the negotiations?
So confidence is one of my favorite subjects because it's so powerful, so powerful. Like if you look at a lot of like success, it's really a worthiness issue, right? Like if you feel worthy of it, like receiving is a whole thing.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if you're not confident, you won't even receive, right? If you're not confident, you won't do, you won't try.
You don't feel like you're worthy. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Right. It's a worthiness thing. And so a lot of people struggle with that. But what we don't want to do is build our confidence outside of ourselves. I'll give you an example. My son, I bought him a really fancy, cool watch, right? But before I gave it to him, I said, hey, just so you know, right? And we talk about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, just remember, right?
How old is he?
He's 12.
Cool.
Okay. So I'm like, nothing outside of yourself will ever add to who you are as a person. Nothing outside of yourself will add to who you are as a person. So this is really cool. It's fancy.
Not your fancy
it's
car,
look good.
not your fancy outfit. Yeah.
There you go. Right. Because if he gets connected to that pattern, striving energy, right? Everything is outside of me.
Yep.
I can't control that. Right.
Right.
So, let's go back to the market, right? If the market's down, doesn't mean you suck. Doesn't mean you're less than, right? Doesn't mean you don't know all of a sudden. It's just an issue. It's a thing, whatever. Doesn't define who you are.
Yep.
And so what we do is we bring our confidence into something I call core confidence. And core confidence is, and I have different ways of kind of working through this, but it's understanding the unique traits of who you are, right? So let's say, one of my stories is I built a business, took 10 years to build it, owned multiple commercial property locations, condo on the golf course, BMW, all in my 20s. I ended up losing all of that, right? So if I look at the exterior, which I did for a long time, I had shame. Guilt says I did something wrong. Shame says something's wrong with me. So I had this shame I carried around. What's wrong with me? How could I let that happen? Bullshit, right? As soon as I rewrote that story and I looked at it, I'm like, wait, you showed perseverance. You showed resilience. You showed determination. You showed creativity. You showed leadership, right? Just start going down the list. And then I go, whoa, I am all these things.
Yeah.
And these are qualities, right? Right. And so then we expand from there.
You can't buy those.
No, that's right. So like I have a process I would take you through and say, tell me a feature about, just like in business, marketing, features, benefits, right? I'd go, tell me a feature about you. Well, I've been in business for 2 decades. It's a feature. Great. What is a benefit that someone who comes in relationship with you, partnership, business with you, that they will benefit from that? Well, they're going to benefit because I'm someone who can carve their own path. I'm someone who's resilient. I'm someone who's resourceful. And so you start to realize these qualities that you possess that have nothing to do with like what's outside of you.
Right.
They're just innate to you. And then I would really remind you that you are a one of one. There is no other you.
Sure.
You're a one of one, right?
Unique.
Yep. And so if you're looking for a new relationship, you're a one of one. Like get really deep on what that experience is of you and invite someone onto your journey. No man or woman should ever come before your journey, but they can join your journey.
True.
Right?
Yep.
And then you become uniquely connected to you and this experience you're creating that you can invite people onto.
Right.
So cool.
I love that.
Right?
That's cool.
And I guess in negotiation, it helps when you're aware of those things, right? The reality is that which we invest in means more to us. So I know if I'm talking to a client, you may not know this, but you want to pay me well because it matters more to you. We've all bought the trainer or the person or the thing that, it's no big deal financially. And you cancel, you don't show up, right? Or the course. And I explain it to people like, let's say you went to a weekend workshop and you spent your life savings there. How much are you going to listen?
Oh,
you're going to take every note, right?
Skin in the game.
Yes,
for sure.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's reminding people like, you're paying me for a result. You're paying me so you feel influenced and you'll make changes, and you want that. And reminding them of where are you going, right? And what type of person do you need to be to get there? And so I also, look, I don't want to increase your stress, right? So there's the win-win. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for me, flat out. And people can feel that energy, right? But I know you came to me for a reason, and I believe that reason matters to you.
Right.
And so if you're really committed to getting there, then let's work together. And reminding people that I'm walking with you hand in hand. Like, that's what you're getting, right? And if it's negotiating a deal, or if it's negotiating a contract, or it's working together and coaching, I'm hand in hand. Like, let's roll. Like, personally, I don't take clients on Fridays, right? I could make more money if I coach people on Fridays. Why don't I do that? So I'm better rested. Like, literally, it's so I have more energy. So I have more energy.
Yep.
Right?
You're coaching Troy on Friday.
That's right. Yeah, it's my time.
Own, your own.
Yeah, I'm studying, hanging out. Yeah, going for a drive, whatever. Yep. It's cool. Because I can show up better on Monday.
It's cool. We talked about failures a little bit. Like when any entrepreneur, anyone that succeeds, business, whatever, you always have to go through some failures. I have some favorite failures. Do you have a favorite failure? That kind of taught you the best lesson. Could be like something that taught you an amazing lesson, or it could be just something that you're just like, whoa, that was an experience that I learned from.
I think, this is maybe a little different than what just came to mind, right? Is in parenting, making a mistake and then getting down to my kid's eye level and asking for forgiveness. And I can't even tell you what the mistake is, right? But because what mattered, what shined through, was the power of asking for forgiveness right in front of them. Because now I'm allowing myself to be vulnerable. I'm showing it's okay to be human.
Programmed them to actually do that too.
Yeah.
That they can do that. It's okay
to
fail. It's okay to.
Yeah. Dad's not perfect.
Yeah.
Dad's not,
It's cool.
Right? And so, I don't know, just those moments of kind of surrender, humility, authenticity.
It's so easy to lose sight of those things, but that's what really matters. At the end of the day, people, they may judge you, and who cares?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
No, that's their.
And most of the time, they're not even thinking of you.
No,
right?
That's right. Yep.
But your kids and your family, that stuff matters. Who you show up, every day to for work or for your commitments. That's really what matters.
It's part of becoming an empowered empath. So if you're empathetic and you feel energy, you're sensitive, which I am, and I think it's good to be sensitive. To be sensitive means to have sensation, to feel your way through the world. You start to understand what's mine and what is the others. And for so many years, I carried around what the others thought, right, as mine. And it disempowered me. And so realizing like, hey, I can say that I like this. No, I don't want to go to that. Yeah. And how they receive that's on them, right? I don't mean, if I don't want to go with you to the whatever, it says nothing about you. Like, I'm just tired tonight, whatever,
Sure, okay.
Right? But that's becoming empowered, getting our power back.
Yeah, that's good. Any challenges right now?
Man, I'd say they're all opportunities, right? But if I'm just, navigating through things, say a challenge is I really feel like I have a variety of messages that I want to share with people and really want people to feel. And I believe that our world needs it, but it's a loud world. And so how do I get my message out there? How do I connect to people? I'm an entrepreneur too. How do I evolve and grow my business and reach different people in different ways and meet them where they're at and all this stuff? And, I'm doing it too. That whole control and release. It's like control what I can and let go what I can't. Yeah. And, there'll be a process to it, and I'm ready for it. That's
cool. Any shout outs to anyone that's helped you along the way?
Man, so many people. Like, I went through some challenging stuff recently, and the amount of people that reached out to offer their support was unbelievable. From clients to friends, from friends in the past. Like, if I start naming names, it'll probably take way too long. But mentors, like, I hope you all know who you are, and deepest of gratitude, so much love, your love, people's love and prayers and thoughts is real. It can take something that seems dark and heavy into something that's very light. So I encourage any of you to do that and be that for others. And also just to thank the people that have done that for me. I'm certainly just a collection of the lessons, and, I'm a kid from a small town, who just had a dream and still does. And, but I get my flame gets ignited through these other people who come along and show me love and support me. So,
well, you can feel that. You can tell that you really like to help people. I can tell you're passionate about it. And I know that from our experience from the breathwork stuff, it was real and it was cool. And that's why I invited you back. And tonight we're going to have another session with my group. And how does someone get a hold of you? How does someone, hire you to coach, all that stuff? Yeah,
it's my website, troyfontana.co. Social media, Instagram is troy.fontana. Just reach out, drop me a line. I have a YouTube channel as well. And let's just hop on a call. We can chat. If it's, working together, coaching, excellent. If it's coming out for an event, awesome. Retreats, I can do all those things.
Nice.
And I can go hours and hours on some deep subjects. And, what lights up or fills up my cup is to help others. And so I'd love to help you.
That abundance mentality, man. It's like you got to fill up your cup.
Yep.
Then you can overflow to
overfills.
Right?
That's right.
Cool. Very cool. Well, if you got something out of this podcast, guys, please share it with others. This is how we grow. Let us know what you think in the comments. Please subscribe, all those things, and let us know what you who you'd like to have on the next podcast, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.
The $1 Million Mortgage Experience Podcast.